Hello, I'm Henry R. Mockingbird, your host with the mustache, and I am a huge Star Wars fan. I love both the original trilogy and the Star Wars prequels equally. Now, something I am not a huge fan of is the Star Wars sequels.
I know that the Star Wars sequels have their fans, and if you're one of them, that's perfectly fine. I'm just not a fan. Don't let me take away your enjoyment of these movies. But personally, I find Force Awakens to be a forgettable rehash of A New Hope. Last Jedi was just a frustrating movie. And Rise of Skywalker just ticked me off.
To put it lightly, the Star Wars sequels have done more harm than good. And I'm going to count down the worst things they have done. So, grab yourself a bottle of Qui-Gon gin and drink up. For this is my top 10 worst things in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. May the Force be with me on this one.
Don't you regret this?
That is why you fail.
It's that bad, huh?
You, sir, all bomber.
I hate them! This is very, very bad.
Number 10. Leia flying through space.
I have no way to lead up to this. Just play the clip.
It is amazing. This very scene is the definition of a big lip alligator moment, in the sense that it comes right the hell out of nowhere and is never explained and is never mentioned again. Gotta be the stupidest thing ever committed to Star Wars since Greedo shot first. Not only should she have died due to the explosion that happens in the ship, but she's flying through space like she's Mary Poppins. And yeah, I know that Leia is supposed to be Luke's brother, and that Luke was very strong with the Force. But I'm sorry, at no point in The Force Awakens was it established, at least to my recollection, that she was gifted with the Force. And I don't care how skilled you are with the Force, no one can survive the vacuum of space where there's no freaking air and gravity. But to be fair, this isn't the most offensive thing that the sequel trilogy did. We still got 9 more slots to fill. So that's why it's number 10. I mean, it really says something when this scene is so stupid that even Robot Chicken made fun of it.
Oh no, she ain't dead yet. It's Super Space Leia. Super Space Leia taking on the Empire. I mean, First Order.
What? How?
The Force. I guess. It's why you fail.
It's that bad, huh?
You, sir, all Bombay.
I hate them. This is very, very bad. Oh!
Number 9.
The Porgs. I know there are plenty of people who like the Porgs and think they're cute, and I completely understand. They are downright adorable, but the reason that they're on the list is that they don't really serve anything narrative-wise. They just stand around in the background and look cute most of the time. Say what you will about the Ewoks, but at least they helped the good guys take down the Empire in Return of the Jedi, and at least they did serve a purpose to the story. Even Jar Jar Binks in Phantom Menace served some kind of a purpose. Yeah, does anyone remember this scene from Phantom Menace?
You're thinking you're people gonna die?
I don't know.
Gungans get pasted too, eh?
I hope not.
Gungans not dying without a fight. We warriors. We got a grand army. That's why you know liking us, Mr. Dinks.
After that, we get Jar Jar taking Queen Amidala to the Gungans and Boss Nass to assemble an army. And that basically kickstarts the Battle of Naboo. Hell, even Jar Jar becomes a general, and even Jar Jar kicked some kind of droid ass. But just like Leia flying through space, the Porgs are pretty harmless. They're clearly only in the movie to sell toys. And so that's why they get a pass.
It's why you fail.
It's that bad, huh?
You, sir, all Bombay.
I hate them. This is very, very bad. Oh!
Number 8.
Too much fan service and rehashing the original trilogy. Now, this was something that both Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker somewhat toned down, and they did improve this, but especially for Force Awakens, there are so many moments where they're just rehashing the original trilogy to the point where they just borrow or you could say steal plot points from Star Wars A New Hope, to the point where they use a planet-destroying machine called the Star Killer. Yeah, that don't sound like the Death Star at all. They even bring back old cast members and characters from the original trilogy. Now, if you're a huge Star Wars fan, these moments should feel very nostalgic to you. But if you did not grow up with the original trilogy, and if Force Awakens is your first movie and your introduction to Star Wars, or if you are just a casual fan, these moments pretty much mean nothing. It's almost like this movie's too scared to be different, basically because of the critical reception of the prequel trilogy. It's trying everything in its power to not be the prequels. that it basically just rehashes A New Hope. That's not to say that this sort of movie can't be done, but a passing the torch movie needs to stand on its own two legs. It worked pretty well with Spider-Man No Way Home and Ghostbusters Afterlife. In fact, let us use Ghostbusters Afterlife, aka Force Awakens done right, as an example. We do have a lot of fan service in Ghostbusters Afterlife, and many references to the first two Ghostbusters movies and the old cast coming back. But the movie knows when to stand on its own 2 feet. It knows when to tell its own story. So when you do get those fan service moments, it feels earned. The same thing could be said about Spider-Man No Way Home. The characters in Spider-Man No Way Home are so good, you're not, waiting and patient for the fan service and the old characters to come in. And when the old characters and fan service does come in, it feels earned. The moment that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Doc Ock talk to each other, it's like meeting friends that you haven't seen in a long time. I actually feel nostalgic. It feels like I'm going back to my childhood. But the fan service in this movie doesn't feel earned. I don't feel anything. I feel nothing when the old and the new characters are together. And that's really saying a lot when you're trying to be nostalgic and you're trying to pass the torch to a new generation.
That's why you fail. It's that bad, huh? You, sir, all bomber.
I hate them. This is very, very bad.
Number 7. Rey's perfect moments. Guess it's time to talk about Rey. I mean, you can't really talk about these movies without talking about her. Now, I have nothing against Daisy Ridley, the actress who plays Rey. But, to simply put it, her character, Rey, is not relatable. She's not interesting. She never changes. She never learns. She has no problems, no weaknesses. She's basically a Mary Sue. Now, I know what you're thinking. What is a Mary Sue? Well, I took up the liberty of looking up what a Mary Sue is. And according to Google, a Mary Sue is a type of female character who is depicted as unrealistically lacking in flaws or weaknesses. That's basically what Rey is. And I know a lot of people like to defend her and say she isn't a Mary Sue, but honestly, what is there to defend? She is a Mary Sue, pure and simple. She's miraculously somehow is gifted with the Force, despite having no training. She could do all of this, and when they do give an explanation as to how is she so gifted with the Force, the explanation is she's Palpatine's granddaughter. And the fact that Emperor Palpatine spawned a child makes me feel all... That aside, this could have been so easy to fix. You could have done something like Isabella from Encanto, where she at first seems like she's perfect, but then, surprise, surprise, She isn't so perfect after all. She has flaws. They could have done something like that with this trilogy. But no, they never do anything like this. The closest Rey ever comes to having a flaw is when Kylo Ren asks her to come to the dark side in The Last Jedi. But surprise, surprise, that never happens, despite how many times this trilogy tries to do this.
It's why you fail. It's that bad, huh? You, sir, all bomber.
I hate them. This is very, very bad.
Number 6. The bad comedy in The Last Jedi. Humor is like taste in food, in the sense that it's subjective. Now, I'm not going to pretend like Star Wars can't have funny moments, rather intentional or unintentional. But the problem with the jokes in the sequel trilogy, particularly Last Jedi, and somewhat to an extent Rise of Skywalker, they're just not funny on either level. The first joke in the movie is a prank call. No, I'm not BSing you. General Hux makes a threat to Poe, and then Poe follows it up by making a "your mama" joke. And Finn wakes up from his coma at the end of the last movie, falls out of bed, and starts walking around in a suit leaking water. Like it's a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Ha! It's funny because... Actually, it's not funny. Not really. No.
Seriously, this feels like a joke that belongs more in Spaceballs than an actual Star Wars movie. There's this really weird joke where Rey catches Luke milking this creature, and then Luke drinks green milk from a bottle. This is more disgusting than funny. And then you have jokes that just ruin the mood. Like during the final battle, one of the soldiers picks up a grain of red salt and eats it. First of all, would you eat something off the ground? No, you wouldn't. Let's use another franchise to give you a good example of what I'm talking about. Let's use Lord of the Rings, particularly Gimli. None of the jokes in those movies that they do with Gimli feel like mood whiplash. None of them feel out of place. And most importantly of all, they're actually funny.
It's why you fail. It's that bad, huh? You, sir, all bomber.
I hate them. This is very, very bad.
Number 5. Where the hell did the First Order come from? Okay, what is up with the First Order? Who are these guys? None of this is ever explained, and it makes no sense. I mean, the last time we were in the Star Wars world, the Empire was destroyed, the galaxy rejoiced, and the good guys lived happily ever after. Then when you get to Force Awakens, these guys just show up right the hell out of nowhere. Who are these guys? How threatening are they? Are they threatening? I guess they are. Where in the galaxy do these bad guys come from? This is like if an Avatar, we were not given the intro to explain what the Fire Nation imposes, and we were just introduced to Prince Zuko and the Fire Nation with no explanation as where they came from or how threatening they are. And you probably would think that this would be addressed in either Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker.
Wrong!
Spoiler alert, it isn't. And please do not try to bring in secondary material as an explanation like it was in the comics. I'm sorry, but no. The information should be given to me with the movies. I should not have to read comics or read a novelization to understand these movies.
It's why you fail. It's that bad, huh? You, sir, all bomber.
I hate them. This is very, very bad.
Number 4.
Go.
Kylo Ren. Kylo freaking Ren. Where do I even begin with this guy? Say what you will about Anakin Skywalker. Yeah, he could be kinda whiny in Attack of the Clones, but at least we could sympathize with him because we got to know him. But Kylo Ren, on the other hand, good lord, there ain't nothing complex, sympathetic, or tragic about him in the slightest. We never get a backstory for him outside of the fact that Luke Skywalker tried to kill him in his sleep, and don't worry, I'll get to that later. But that is the closest we ever get to a backstory, and yet that's never explored outside of a couple of flashbacks. And I'm sorry, just doing only that does not make me relate to him. It's like if you were to tell the story of Prince Ramses from the Prince of Egypt. If you were to only show his dad calling him a weak link and only show it in a couple of flashbacks, would that tell you anything about him? No, it wouldn't. It would only make it pointless. We have to get to know a character in order for us to relate to said character. That's how you make us feel compassion for him. But no, he's nothing more than just a Darth Vader wannabe who's angry all the time for no reason. And it's really hard to take Kylo Ren seriously as a villain or a threat, even after he kills Han Solo. Don't worry, I'll get to that too. And it's also really hard for me to take him seriously as a villain when he force chokes his men and slams them into the ceiling, when he shouts and screams at the top of his lungs, and when he slices machinery with his lightsaber and throws a freaking temper tantrum like he's a 4-year-old. And when you know emo teenagers from the early 2000s who shop at Hot Topic and are more complex and threatening than this guy, it really goes to show what a craptastic villain he really is.
It's why you fail. It's that bad, huh? You, sir, all bomber.
I hate them. This is very, very bad.
Number 2 and number 2. Old characters that don't act like themselves and new characters with wasted potential. Deaths of old characters. You know what? Screw it. I'm doing them both. They're pretty much the same thing. None of the characters in this trilogy act nothing like themselves, with Luke Skywalker being the biggest offender in all this. Luke Skywalker, the savior of the galaxy, has been reduced to nothing but a hermit, a cranky old man. And for some reason, he cut himself off from the Force. Why? No, seriously, I want to know. Why? Why is Luke acting like this? And why did he go into hiding? This isn't like Yoda or Obi-Wan. They were portrayed and nearly killed off by their own soldiers. Not to mention, they survived a massacre against their people. So they had a perfectly good reason to go into exile. If they had revealed themselves, they would have been killed on the spot, as Obi-Wan clearly shows. Luke Skywalker, on the other hand, doesn't have a good reason to go into exile. Now it's time to talk about the infamous scene and where Luke Skywalker was going to kill his own nephew, Kylo Ren, who at this point in time has done nothing wrong. Allow me to repeat that. Luke Skywalker was going to kill someone in his sleep, and all because he felt that he was going to the dark side. Yes, this was the moment that officially made me hate this trilogy. If I'm not mistaken, this is supposed to be the same Luke Skywalker who saw good in his father, who was the most evilest man in the galaxy, who saw good in him just like his mother Padme before him. Luke Skywalker is the embodiment of hope, the North Star of this series, the character we all want to be. I want to be this Luke Skywalker. I do not want to be this Luke Skywalker, who is nothing more than just a cold-blooded killer. Not only do we have old characters that don't act like themselves, we have new characters with wasted potential. Take, for example, Finn. He was the only new thing about Force Awakens. He was a stormtrooper who had feelings, who could tell the difference between right and wrong. What a great character he would have been. Too bad they do nothing with him, as by the time the next movie comes around, he is subjected to Rose. Now, I have nothing against Kelly Mary Tran. I thought she was great as Leia in Rey and the Last Dragon. But she just annoys the hell out of me. She is way too airheaded and ditzy. And the relationship between her and Finn just feels like fan fiction. Not to mention their relationship ends up being entirely pointless, as by the time Rise of Skywalker comes along, she's basically reduced to nothing more than just a background character.
And by the way, you know, when you're telling these little stories, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
Finn starts a relationship with what is essentially him in a woman's body. I could talk about how much they wasted Finn, but there are so many other videos that could do it far better than I ever could. Now it's time to talk about the only element I liked about Last Jedi, and that is Snoke. He was the best character in this trilogy, both here and in Force Awakens. He's creepy as all hell with that deformed face. And him being played by Andy Serkis only adds to that. He is such a cool villain. What a great baddie he would have been. Too bad he goes out like a wuss by being stabbed by Kylo Ren's lightsaber. Damn! And you thought Darth Maul had a pathetic death in Phantom Menace by being chopped in half by Obi-Wan's lightsaber. I think even he had a better death than Snoke in this movie. And Snoke was supposed to be a very important character. You don't kill him off in this movie. You kill him off in the third movie. And how powerful is Snoke? How did he get so powerful? Where did he come from?
The world may never know.
You ever notice how almost every old character in the sequel trilogy gets killed off, with the exception of Lando Calrissian and Chewbacca? Let us start with fan favorite Han Solo. Han Solo, one of the biggest badasses in the galaxy, and you have him get killed off by having his brat of a son, Kylo Ren, stab him through the gut with his lightsaber. I wouldn't mind the character dying in Force Awakens. I just think that the character deserved a much more dignified death than this. I will say that Leia did get a little bit of a respectful death by having her die laying down, but that is the least of what I could say about Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker, a character we have been following since Star Wars A New Hope, was basically reduced to this.
What the hell was that?
But that is nothing compared to the number one moment in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. The absolute worst thing these movies did. Now, before we start, let me take a deep breath. Are you ready? because I'm definitely not. But here we go. And the number one worst thing in the sequel trilogy
I hate
is the return of Emperor Palpatine. Yeah, I couldn't say it in full. I gotta be honest with you, when I first heard Emperor Palpatine's voice in the trailer for Rise of Skywalker, my response was basically, what the hell is Emperor Palpatine doing back? Didn't he die at the end of Return of the Jedi? He didn't just die though. He got thrown down a shaft and exploded to smithereens. And not only once, but twice in the same freaking movie. And now he's back with absolutely no explanation as to how he came back. Okay, 3 things. 1, not only does he feel really tacked on. 2, the reason he feels tacked on is because, oops, we killed off Snoke. Better bring back Palpatine. And 3, this immediately takes away the value of Anakin's sacrifice in Return of the Jedi. And now it's entirely pointless. Remember that scene and where Darth Vader is dying in Luke's arms? Remember how depressing that was? Well, it's somehow even more depressing if you watch the prequels, particularly Revenge of the Sith. Knowing that Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader's own son, could save so many when he himself could not save none, makes it just depressing. And now that means
nothing! Absolutely nothing!
And if you still like these movies despite everything I said, good for you. Do not let me take away your enjoyment of these films. Opinions are opinions after all. Now, I'm gonna get going.